Verbal communication in group. Introduction. In this study session, we'll examine the concept of communication, the important models, characteristics, and types. We'll also discuss how to communicate effectively in groups. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Define the concept of communication. 2. Analyze the models of communication. 3. Highlight 5 characteristics of communication. 4. Discuss 2 types of communication. 5. Describe how to communicate effectively in groups. Concept of communication. Communication refers to the process by which people exchange information or express their thoughts and feelings. It is simply exchange of meaningful messages. According to Payne, 2001, communication is the negotiation of a shared meaning. In other words, the presence of meaning means that communication must have taken place. Therefore, if a work of art has meaning for us, then a form of communication has taken place. The artist is a sender and we are receivers. If an object has special meaning for us, communication is taken or has taken place. Perhaps the communication is within the one person for whom the object has meaning. But the creation of meaning, even within a single person, is a form of communication. Model of communication. A model is a way of reducing a complex object or process to a simpler representation. Payne, 2001. A good model reveals the essence of its subject, but does so in a way that allows easier understanding. Zastro, 2001. Zastro, 2001, identified 2 models of communication, namely, a model of one-way communication and a model of two-way communication. A model of one-way communication. When a sender wants to express a thought or feeling, the first thing he does is to translate that thought and feelings into symbols, spoken words, or non-verbal signals that others can understand. This process is called encoding. However, finding the precise symbols to express what you think or feel can be difficult. The next step is to send the message, which may be by letter, email, telephone, note, spoken word, touch, posture, gesture, and facial expressions. When the message reaches a receiver, the receiver decodes the message by interpreting it in terms, thoughts, or feelings that mean something to the receiver. The completed process is shown in figure 1 below. This process is one-way communication, in which the sender directs the message to the receiver. A mode of one-way communication. Sender encodes, message, receiver decodes. A model of two-way communication. Most communication is a two-way process. For instance, the initial sender directs a message to the receiver and the receiver responds. This is illustrated in figure 2 below. It should be mentioned here that with effective communication, what the receiver decodes is what the sender sends. However, frequently something goes wrong. That is, there may be areas in which misinterpretations may occur. This includes the following. 1. The sender may have difficulty in putting into symbolic forms the thoughts or feelings he or she wishes to express. 2. The message may not be sent effectively. 3. There may be too much noise for the sender to be fully heard, or the sender may not speak loudly enough. 4. Words may have a variety of meanings and may connote something different from what the sender intends. 5. During the decoding process, the receiver may misunderstand the sender's message as a result of several factors, including physiological factors, individual attitudes, values, beliefs, defense mechanism, stereotypes, and perceptual factors as not listening. Characteristics of communication. Payne 2001 gave the nature or characteristics of communication as follows. Communication is ongoing. It is ongoing because it is a process. Even when we stop talking, we are communicating with our silence. Therefore, for human beings, communication never stops. Communication is dynamic. It is dynamic because it is always changing. In the simplest of conversation, we naturally move from one thought, idea, or topic to another. Communication has many parts. There are many parts to an action of communication. A change in any one of these parts brings about a change in the communication action itself. Communication is all around us. It is around us because we cannot avoid being part of the communication process. Everywhere we turn, meaning is created within us, and we are creating meaning in others. Communication is complex. It is complex because it is made up of many parts. Even a simple act of communication involves many parts or pieces. Communication is multi-level. It is multi-level because it takes place at different levels. In other words, there are different levels of communication. For instance, we create shared meaning within ourselves or within others. We can communicate in a very large group. We can communicate directly or via a mass medium, such as television or the internet. The different levels of communication, as described by Payne 2001, include intrapersonal communication. The meaning we create within ourselves is called intrapersonal communication. Interpersonal communication. This occurs in contexts where two or more people actively participate in exchanging messages. Person-to-group communication. This is called public speaking in this level of communication. Mass media. This uses technology to communicate the same message to very large groups of people. Types of communication in groups. In groups, two major types of communication are used. These are one-way communication and two-way communication. One-way communication. Some groups and many corporations use one-way communication. The boss or group leader gives instructions and orders or make announcements to the other groups members who are not allowed to respond with their thoughts, feelings, and ideas. In one-way communication, the listener's role is only to receive the sender's message and to carry out instructions and orders. The advantages of one-way communications are that 1. Messages and instructions are given quickly, and the boss does not have to deal with the questions and concerns of the listener. 2. In authority hierarchies, messages are often passed down through several levels. One-way communication has many problems or disadvantages, especially when information is passed through several people. Such problems or disadvantages include 1. As the message is passed along, it tends to become more simplified and distorted because of the 3 psychological processes of leveling, sharpening, and assimilation. 2. Receivers reduce or level the amount of information because they recall less information than they receive. In successive messages, fewer details are mentioned and fewer words are used. 3. A few high points become dominant and readily remembered or sharpened, while much of the remainder is forgotten. 4. The receiver interprets or assimilates much of the message in terms of their own unique personalities and reference frame. By this, they change the unfamiliar to some known context, leaving out materials that seem irrelevant and substituting materials that gives meaning in terms of the receiver frame of reference. 5. Group members may have valuable information that could improve the group's productivity, but because the information is not communicated to the chair, it is never considered. 6. Details of original information are lost, and the original message is distorted as it is passed from one level to another. 7. The distortions reduce the coordination between hierarchy levels and sometimes result in effective implementation of the chair's directive. 8. The morale of the group and the commitment of members to carry out the directives are substantially reduced when the members have no input into the decision-making process. Two-way communication. This is a type of communication in which minority opinions are encouraged and expressed. Two-way communication improves cohesion, group morale, trust, and openness. It helps in resolving conflicts and controversies through high-quality solutions as the resources and ideas of all members are pooled. It is more effective and productive than one-way communication. However, it has the following shortcomings. 1. It is much time consuming. 2. Authority hierarchy affects two-way communication because high-status people tend to talk more and most messages are directed to high-status members. 3. Often, members with little power take few risks and avoid frank remarks because they fear the consequences. 5. High authority members are often reluctant to reveal their limitations and vulnerabilities for fear of appearing weak and underdeserving of their status. This tendency of high authority members also reduces honest and open communication. To avoid these problems, a cooperative atmosphere should be established to encourage the full participation of all members when there are sharp differences in status and authority among members. Also, to make the group effective, group norms must indicate that the ideas and opinions of all group members are valuable and essential. How to communicate effectively. A number of suggestions are given for improving communication for both a sender and a receiver. According to Zastro 2001, they include: sender. For a sender to communicate his message effectively to the receiver, he or she must take note of the following. 1. Verbal and non-verbal messages should match each other to avoid double and contradictory messages. 2. Messages should be complete and specific. If you have to request a special favor of someone, it is desirable to explain why. Also, it is important to specify your request, as vague or incomplete messages are often misinterpreted. 3. Own your messages by using personal pronouns such as I to show that you are clearly taking responsibility for your thoughts and feelings. 4. Each message should be phrased in a way that is appropriate to the receiver's frame of reference, e.g., the words used for a child should not be used for an adult. 5. Support your messages with handouts, pictures, and written messages, as these will help the receiver understand them. 6. Always ask for feedback. When you are not sure whether the receiver has accurately perceived the message. 7. Express your concerns to others in non-blaming rather than judgmental or evaluative terms. A lot of physical factors interfere with effective communication. These are barriers to communication and include chairs in a row rather than in a circle, poor acoustics, loud outside noises, an unacceptable room temperature, ineffective lighting, uncomfortable chairs, and too little time allotted to discuss issues. Receiver. 1. Communication becomes halted if the receiver takes the message personally. Therefore, instead of jumping to a wrong conclusion, a receiver should ask questions that will clarify the sender's intention and reasoning. E.g., are you saying, or are you feeling? B. The receiver should restate the ideas and feelings of the sender accurately and to the sender's satisfaction before proceeding to present his own views. C. The receiver should express the sender's feelings and ideas in his own words rather than parroting or mimicking the words of the sender. In other words, before indicating approval or disapproval, a receiver should place himself or herself in the sender's shoes in order to understand what the sender is thinking or feeling. D. To communicate effectively, the receiver should develop good listening skills. Study session summary. In this study session, we describe the concept of communication as the exchange of meaningful messages or expression of thoughts and feelings. We defined a model as a way of reducing a complex. Communication model may be a model for one-way or two-way communication. Also, effective communication requires a sender and a receiver. End of study session 10.